Good morning. I'm Pete Najarian. This is the take on this Wednesday morning. I'm getting these days screwed up this week. You probably have a little bit as well, but Memorial Day is behind us now. So is the month of May. As we jump into June, let's look back at May. Averaged about 41.5 million contracts per day. Almost exactly what the year-to-date average is. A little bit higher than that, but that's okay. So an extension of May, we now push into June. As we push into June, markets continue to want to be the same. The final day of May, we got another big move. We were all over the place. Dow was down 400 points, got all the way back up. It was into the green. Final 90 minutes, we were banging around. It was all over the place. We actually finished the market down about 220 on the Dow. Same sort of a story really with the NASDAQ. NASDAQ was all over the place as well. As a matter of fact, in the final 90 minutes, the NASDAQ was up as much as 60. It was down as much as 90. And then finished off down about 50 points. So, you get the theme here. S&P down about 30 points. Take a look over at crude. Now, crude started off the day and was just very explosive up towards 119. Started to ease back a little bit, got closer to 115. Energy, which had been really moving to the upside, then, of course, started to slip after that, moved towards 120 and then pulling back. We'll see how that plays out over time. Final day of May, we actually traded about 39 million contracts, so a little bit short of the average. But nonetheless, we had some really big days, as a matter of fact, as we got a little bit closer to the end of the month of May. Volatility index hanging sort of in that mid-20s. We're talking about somewhere between 26, 28 and a half. We finished the day right around 26, got the 10-year, been floating around a little bit, did get a little bit of a lift. It was right around that 285 level. Seeing it very close to that today as well. Matter of fact, making a little bit of a move up again today. We'll get into that in just a second. Consumer discretionary. Now, that is an area that's always pretty interesting, and we've had some nice moves in some of those names. Part of what was actually still positive, despite the fact that we actually had pretty wild ride and mostly into the red on Tuesday. But as we're looking at Wednesday and looking ahead, still looking back, and I'm seeing Amazon. And Amazon, I think the storyline that we have to look at there is splits and that type of thing. We talk about that with Google. We talk about it with Amazon. We've seen it in other names and just how that all plays out. But positive yesterday, Amazon was strong. Netflix was strong. Nike was strong. Starbucks, all of those in that consumer discretionary area. But I look over at energy, and we did have that big turn. And as we turned, started to see a lot of those names start to turn into the red. Names like Chevron and Exxon and Conoco and Shell, big names, big market cap names, getting a push to the downside. Materials as well, getting a bit of a push to the downside. Names like Nucor and U.S. Steel. But you look at tech, kind of was wavering around, did finish in the negative, but not a huge move. But when you look at all the moves kind of moving together to the downside, that is going to move the technology sector. Is Apple and Tesla and Microsoft, small into the red, but nothing too much to be worried about. What did not look so great, but still kind of hanging in there, was the financials. Financials were on this great path and then started to float off of it a little bit. We were in a little bit of negative territory, including with what was sort of the driver, earlier when we were watching. We see a lot from the credit space, looking at names like American Express and COF and MA and V and all these names. Little bit of an easing back yesterday. So what was really strong and continued to be strong even into the market as it kind of sold off, some of those Chinese names, JD, PDD, Baidu, you get the idea. Lucid and Netflix, they were strong yesterday. Mosaic, Amazon, as I already mentioned. But then there was a couple other names out there like Under Armour and CF Industries. CF had been pushed to the downside previously, had a little bit of a rise. Illumina was a name that we talked about yesterday. It was getting absolutely smacked. It stayed getting smacked for the rest of the day. Schlumberger, as far as some of the energy space and some of those beta names, that was getting hit a little bit. Dollar Tree, Biogen, Okta, you get the idea. Salesforce into earnings was getting hit a little bit. United Health as well. It looked like something like a Zscaler and CrowdStrike. All those were getting hit a little bit yesterday. Not huge, but enough to kind of move those markets around a little bit. There's no doubt about that. So today, we start off with a nice little boost. And they get that boost from Salesforce. They had their earnings. They looked very, very strong. Forecast was something that people seem to like. Stock absolutely moving to the upside. We also had the Dow moving to the upside, pretty strong. Salesforce, of course, part of that Dow. It was up 200. Look over the NASDAQ, it was up about 50 points. And look over at the S&P, up about 15 points. It stayed in that sort of an area in the first, 15, 20 minutes. You get to the top of the hour, the next thing you know, we're in negative territory. We'd already moved into the red for the Dow after being up as much as 250 points early on. Now we're down about 150 points. The NASDAQ, kind of a similar story. It was still actually strong in positive territory, up about 70 points at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock. And now all of a sudden you fast forward, talking about just the first half hour. Now the second half hour, you're looking at some negative numbers there for the NASDAQ, negative numbers for the S&P 500. That's the kind of shifting around that we continue to be a part of. Crude was 116, kind of sliding up towards that 117 area. Volatility getting a little bit of a bump to the upside. Last I looked, trading closer towards 27. It was earlier closer to 26. I saw the VIXN as well, the volatility of the NASDAQ, the measurement there. That was trading right around that 33 level. Let's not forget, we did have all those moves where we're well over 40 for a while as well. The 10-year starting to push up a little bit more at 292. And then I look over at Bitcoin. Bitcoin's had a pretty decent rise. You know, it was hanging underneath 30,000, actually closer to 27,000. Here we are back near that 32,000 level. So get a little bit of something for Bitcoin of late. Energy. It's not as strong as it was, but it's kind of still kind of hanging in there. It's up about 1%. Technology was up strong early. That moved to flat. I saw consumer discretionary not only was strong, but moved all the way back into negative territory, along with the industrials, along with the materials, along with the financials. Financials weren't very positive, just kind of hanging around early on. Now they're getting smacked around pretty good to the downside, down about 1.5%. We talked about Salesforce and the earnings there. Victoria's Secret, another one of those names that actually, when you looked at the numbers, you kind of wondered why, but nonetheless, the stock was actually trading pretty decent, at least early on. And the numbers were kind of mixed. That was an interesting one. A lot of different storylines behind that stock for sure. So we look at Salesforce, definitely one of the big positives so far early on. I look at ServiceNow as well, having a pretty good start to the day. Adobe, we also, you got to look at Hewlett Packard as well. This is HPQ, having a pretty nice day early on. Those beta energy names definitely reacting a little bit as we were watching the price of crude start to move to the upside. It was Devon, it's Marathon, it's Conoco, it's APA, all those names. Then I look over at Datadog, but then there are some names that we're starting to pull even early on that are continuing in that pull of where the markets were and now where they are in that first hour of trade. Airlines getting a little bit of a hit. You look at American, you look at Delta, you look at Mosaic. 3M is another one of these big names. Monster Beverage, Starbucks. Starbucks was strong yesterday, a little bit weaker today, giving some of that back. So, by the way, I got two unusuals to give you right now, but before we get there, let's sort of focus on something that's going to be really exciting. We're excited about it with Market Rebellion. Rebelcon. Now, this should be a lot of fun. They have extended the Memorial Day discount that gives you an opportunity, but that's going to end at the very end of the week. 25% off. That's something that should be a really, really great conference. We're really looking forward to that. I got to tell you, Rebelcon, always something fun when the Rebels all get together, and we're looking forward to that. Just check that out. Check it out on the website. You'll get an idea of what it is, what it looks like, and get that opportunity now to get that discounted price of 25% off, because it will only last until the end of the week. Then all done. Cisco's number one. I'm looking at Cisco trading just underneath 46. They're buying 8,100 of Friday's expiring. That's June 3rd. Friday's expiring 46 calls. So it's just underneath that level. Stock doesn't have to make a huge move from this point, but they're going for about 23 cents up to about 40 cents. But again, very, very short term, obviously. Today, tomorrow, Friday, then they're done. So you just got to understand and have that understanding as you go in there that is the one thing that really people have to always focus on is what sort of an expiration cycle am I looking at? Extreme short term like this one, a little bit further out. Maybe that's a little more interesting or even further. But the unusual we were seeing is very, very short term. Kraft Heinz, KHC, a lot of guys talking about this trade on social media and other places just because right out of the gate, big volume, kind of stands out, makes a little bit of sense. Stock was trading just underneath 38. Had a buyer of 20,800 of, again, June 3rd. So very, very short-term expiration cycle. Be aware of that. You've got Don't blame other people. Don't do all that kind of thing. Understand what you're looking at here. And options are priced by a variety of what we call the Greeks. This one is theta. Theta means, I'll tell you what, time is ticking. And today is Wednesday. And then we got Thursday. These expire Friday. Just to always have that in the back of your mind. So they're buying the 39 strike calls. As I said, 20,800 of those. They're only going for somewhere close to about 10 cents or something like that. But stock's going to have to make a pretty violent move to the upside for these to start to produce. Could it happen? Absolutely. Will it? We'll find out. We'll find out by Friday. Folks, have a great day of trading. Always enjoy it. Get educated. You want to be educated wherever you're going to find it, online, books, whatever. Obviously, Market Rebellion as well. We got education. But before you jump in the derivatives world, you don't want to get fooled by things. You have to understand what you're doing. I'm Pete Najarian. Have a great day.